Hey, what's up, you guys? So I decided that I wanted to do a resistance band sort of training series. I've had a couple of people ask me, how I use my resistance bands, and if you've seen any of my Instagram or Facebook videos, or even on my YouTube channel, I use resistance bands quite often. So I wanted to, instead of responding to people individually, create a series that kind of shows you how I use resistance bands. For this first series, I'm going to be showing you how I use my loop bands. As you know, there are multiple different types of bands, with the mini bands, the handle bands, and other types. But for this specific series, I'm going to be going over how I use my loop bands. And in this video, I'm also going to be going over how I use bands without an anchor point. So if there is no anchor, like a post or a pole or a door or anything that you can use, and all you have is your body, this is what this video is about. But before we get started on that, I wanted to first go over resistance band safety. So before you use any bands, you always want to make sure that there are no rips, no tears, or nicks in your bands. So you always want to kind of look over the bands real quick. What I like to do is I kind of glide the resistance band over my hand like this, so I can kind of feel if there's any kind of nicks. I also kind of give a little pull, because when you pull a little bit, you can kind of expose any of the nicks or tears in them. And if there is any, then I would suggest to not use them. Now, it's up to your discretion, because if you have a thicker band like this, if there's a tiny little nick in it, it's probably not going to do anything, right? But if you're using a thin band like this one, any nick or tear will probably cause it to rip, depending on the usage. So I always suggest, if you have a thinner band and there's any nicks or tears in this one, don't use it, get a new one. But like I said, it's all for safety. So if you want to chance it, then good luck, but I wouldn't suggest doing that at all. It's for your own safety. So that's the first thing. Always make sure your bands are nice and secure. They're not ripped in any type of way. And with that being said, I'm going to show you guys how I use bands with no anchor. Say for instance, for a lot of the exercises, I like to use my feet as an anchor point. So if you're using your feet as an anchor point for these exercises, a lot of times you could be doing either tricep extensions, you could be doing bicep curls, you could be doing back rows, different things using your feet as an anchor point. So this first way I'm going to show you is how to use it when your feet are flat on the ground, right? So there's two different ways you can go about doing it. The first way is, I call it single loop. Single loop, which means it's open and only one end of the band is under your foot. Now, for different resistance, right, you can use either 1 foot or you can do 2 feet. But no matter which one you choose, you want to make sure that this band is securely under the arch of your foot. If you have it too high, it could slip up and pop you in the face. If it's too far in the back, it could slip back and pop you in your groin. So you want to make sure that when you place the band under your foot, it's underneath the arch of your foot. Or if you're flat foot like me, it's where the arch would be on your foot. All right, so from here, like I said, you could do bicep curls, you could do overhead extensions, you could do tricep extensions, you could do a lot of different things with it under your foot. If you want to kind of adjust the resistance and 1 foot is not enough, then you could place 2 feet under 1 loop and do the same thing, right? I could do bicep curls like this, I could do shoulder extensions, or any type of exercise with 1 loop under your foot. If you want to keep 1 foot, if you want to keep both feet under the loop, but you still want maybe to adjust the resistance just a smidge, then you have right here, this piece right here, you can always kind of pull it up. So now there's some slack right here, but you still have, right, you still have only 1 loop under your foot. If you want to do the second one, I call it a double loop. Double loop means you're going to pull the band in half, double loop, and now you're putting 2 of the size under a foot. The same rules apply. Always make sure the band is under the arch of your foot. And from here, this is going to be a lot more resistance than if you just have a single loop, right? Now, doing bicep curls, it's going to be more resistance, a lot more than when you just have the 1 loop. Doing overhead extensions this way, you might not be able to get it because it's too much resistance. But this is how you kind of alter and kind of figure out how much resistance you want per the band. So if you only have 1 band or 2 bands, you can kind of play around with how you place these resistance bands under your foot to give you more resistance. I could even do double loop under both feet and have even more resistance. But at this point, I might not be able to do a bicep curl. But in this position, now I might be able to do a back row. but doing a back row might be too loose. So maybe I want a bigger band, or I could do what I did last time and kind of pull it under my feet a little bit more, and then with a little slack, and now I have more resistance using this single band. And that's how you kind of manipulate using one band with using just your feet as an anchor point, and that's when you're just standing. Next week's video, I'll show you the same thing, but if you're doing it in a seated position, there's going to be different rules for using the band in a seated position. With that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this part one. Let me know how it went. Any suggestions or comments or concerns, feel free to send me a message, and I'll see you guys in the next video.